continuing where I left off. Then you, too, you Finns, were sent down to war from Highland Nursey, chieftain as you were, and famed it for combat, luck among the rugged forest hunters, the Aquicoli, who worked their stony soil in arms, but took their joy in cattle raids, freebooter fare. Just as conspicuous, the priestly Umbro, sent from Maruvium by King Archippus, came with his helm and olive neatly bound, a man of power, who had a gift of soothing vipers and vile-breathing water snakes, but a song ruin, or stroking into sleep. He calmed their rabidness, and by his skill relieved men bitten by them, yet his lore would not enable him to heal the blow. He took from a dart and spear no sleepy charms, or mild herbs gathered in the Martian hills, availed against his wounds. Umbro, the wood of Antigia, mourned you, and Funcinus, mirrors mourn you, the clear quiet lakes. Hippotulus' handsome son rode out to war, sent by Aricia, his mother. Verbius had grown up in Eger's wood, around the moist bank where Diana's altar stands, a gracious shrine and rich. The old tale goes that when Hippolytus went down to death by cunning of his stepmother, and pay the penalty his father claimed in blood, torn by stampeding horses, he returned to the upper air of heaven beneath the stars, called back to life by Asclepius's medicines and by Diana's love. Then the omnipotent Father, taking it ill that any man should rise from under gloom to light and life, cast down by his own bolt Apollo's son, discovered of that healing power, Asclepius, into the Stygian river. But the goddess Trivia, kind Diana, hid Hippolytus in a place apart, and sent him to the nymph Egria in her retired wood. There he would live his obscured life alone in Italy's deep forest, and his name would now be Verbius. This is the reason horses with hooves are banned from Trivia's shrine and all her sacred groves, that on the shore, in fright from sea beast, they had wrecked the chariot and killed the man Hippolytus. Even so, over the plain behind a fiery team, his son rode in a chariot to war. Turnus himself came on, a mighty figure, moving among the captains blade in hand, and by a head the tallest. His high helm with triple plumb bored a chimera's head, exhaling Aeneid fires, raging the more with savage heat. The more blood flowed, the wilder grew the battle. On his polished shield, in gold emblazonry, Io appeared, with lifted horns and hair grown coarse. That instant changed in the huge blazon into a cow. There stood her escort, Argus, and her father, Anachus, the river guard, poured out a stream from a figure earned, and following Turnus marched a cloud of infantry, as all the plain filled up with troops in arms. Argive, Adria's men, Auruncan brands, Rutilians, old-time Sacanes, Sarcanian ranks, Lebaches carrying painted shields, all those who plowed in time of peace your secret shores, Numish of your woodland pastures, Tiber, or who turned clods on the Rutilian hills, and Circe's ridge, those lands presided over by Jupiter of Exor and Feronia. Lady of wild beasts, blithe in her green grove, Saturna's black marsh lies there, and the chill Ufens river winds through bottomlands to find peace in the sea. Besides all these, Camelia of the Volscian people came, riding ahead of cavalry, her squadrons, gallant in bronze, a warrior girl whose hands were never deft at distaff or wool basket, skills of Minerva. She was hard and trained to take the shock of war, or to outrace the winds in running. If she ran full speed over the tips of grain unharvested, she would not ever have bruised an ear, or else she might have sprinted on the deep sea swell and never dipped her flying feet. To see her, men and women pouring from the fields, from houses, thronged her passageway and stared, wide-eyed with admiration at the style of royal purple, robbing her smooth shoulders, then at the brooch that bound her hair in gold, then at the Lycian quiver that she bore, and shepherd's myrtle staff pointed with steel. Book 8. Arcadian Allies. That day, when Turnus raised the flag of war over Lauritum Tower, and his trumpets blared hoarse-throated, when he laid the whip on fiery teams, making bright armor clang, then hearts were stirred by fear, then all of Latium joined in distracted tumult. And young men grew bloody-minded, wild, the high commanders, Messapus and Ufens, and that one who held the gods in scorn, Messentius, from every quarter drew repeated levies, and laid the wide fields waste of their field lands, dispatched it to Diomedes' distant city. Venulus went to ask for aid, to state that Trojans had a foothold in Latium, that landing there, Aeneid had brought in his conquered gods and claimed to be a king called for by destiny, that many tribes made league with the Dardanian, and his name reverberated far and wide through Latium. What he might build on this first enterprise, what he desired as outcome of the war, should fortune favor him, that would be clearer to Diomedes than to either king, Turnus or Latinus. Thus affairs took shape in Latium, and Laomedon's hair, who saw the whole scene, weltered in his trouble, wave after wave of it, this way and that. He let his mind run, passing quickly over all he might do, as when from basins full of unstill water struck by a ray of sun, or the bright disk of moon, a flickering light play over walls and corners and flies up to hit high roof beams and a coffered ceiling. Now it was night, and through the lands of earth deep slumber held all weary living things of bird and beast kind, when the Trojan prince, Aeneas, heartsick at the woe of war, lay down upon the riverside, in the cold air, under the open sky, and gave his body at long last repose. Before him, as he slept, the very god of that place, Tiberinus of fair waters, lifting his hoary head through popular leaves, appeared all veiled in cobweb cloak of grey, and crowned with shady sedge. He seemed to speak in these words to relieve the burdened man. Sir, born of heaven, and whose care Troy's city now comes back to us from its enemies, and in whose keeping high and everlasting Pergamus stands, you whom Laurentine soil and Latian countryside have long awaited. Here is your home, your hearth gods, fixed and sure. There is no time to let go or give way, to fear at threats of war. Angers that rose among the gods have passed it, and I can tell you, lest you suppose this nothing but a dream, under the shoreside oaks a giant soul will be discovered, lying on the ground with her new pharaoh, 30 young, old, told, a white soul with white sucklings at her tits, and by this portent, after 30 years, Ascanius will found the famous town called Alba, or White City. I foretell no doubtful matter, but just now as to what lies ahead and how you may win through it. Listen, and I'll explain in a few words. In this country, an Arcadian tribe, descended from a forebear called Pallas, colonist with King Evander, followers of his flag, marked out a spot and founded on the hills a town they called for Pallas, Pallantium. Always at war with Latinus, as they are, join forces with them, make them your allies. I myself, between my banks, will take you upstream, straight upstream, so you will make way with oars against the current. Son of Venice, rise. Now, while the earliest stars of evening set, address your prayers in proper form to Juno. Melt with your pleas her menaces and anger. You'll make return to me when you prevail. Am I that river in full flood you see, cutting through farmland, gliding past these banks? The sea blue Tiber, heaven delighting stream, my mansions here, my fountainhead far north amid the hilltop cities. Having spoken, he sank away into the watery depths at the river bottom. From Aeneid then nighttime and sleep departed, and he rose, facing the light that fanned up in the east from the pure sun. He cupped his ritual hands to lift clear water from the stream, then spoke his heartfelt prayer to heaven. Nymphs of the springs, Laurentine nymphs, mothers of river kine, and Father Tiber with your sacred stream, take in Aeneid as your guest. At last, shield him from peril, but whatever source the ponds lie that embrace you in your pity for your ill fortune, from whatever ground you well up in your loveliness, you'll be forever honored and adorned forever with gifts from me. O potent stream, great lord of waters in the west, only be with me and give me confirmation of your will. He finished, then selected from his squadron 2 Barmes and had them manned and armed. But something suddenly caught his eye, a sign to marvel at. Snow white in the green wood, snow white as her own litter, lay the sow upon the grassy bank where all could see, and grave Aeneid dedicated her. To thee, Juno the great, to thee indeed, lifting both sow and brood before the altar in sacrifice. Then all that night's long hours the Tiber quieted his swollen stream, encountering his current with still power slackened so that like a tranquil pool, all placid march, he smoothed his whole expanse and left no toil for oars. Once under way, therefore, cheered on, then made a good speed upstream. There, tarry hulls with bubbling wakes behind, slipped through the water, and the waves were awed. The virgin woods were awed at this new sight, the soldiers' shields that flashed in distant air, the painted ships afloat upon the river, oarsmen out weary night and day in roaring, past the long bend shaded by different trees, and cleft green forest in the mirroring water. At that hour, when the fiery sun had climbed it to heaven's midpoint, distant still they saw, wall, citadel, a few housetops. The town, built heavenward by Roman power now, but meager then, and poor, held by Evander. In toward the settlement they swung their prows. By chance that day, the Arcadian king paid honor to Hercules, great son of Amphitryon, and to the other gods in festival. Outside the town in a green grove, with him were his son Pallas and his leading men and homespun Senate. They made offerings of incense, while hot blood fumed on the altars. When they caught sight of the tall ships and saw the strangers gliding through the woodland shade, rowing in silence, they were caught by fear at the sudden apparition, and all sprang up, leaving the feast. But Pallas, with high heart, forbade them to disrupt the ritual. Taking a spear, he ran toward the newcomers, and called out, while still distant from a mound, "Soldiers, what brought you this strange way? Where bound? What is your nation? What is your home?" he said. "Do you bring peace or war?" Then Lord Aeneid from his high poop called back as he held out a branch of olive, signifying peace. "You see before your eyes men born in Troy, enemy lances to the Latins, those who arrogantly attacked us in our exile. we come to find Evander. Take this message. Say, chosen captains of Dardania have come proposing partnership in war. Struck by that far-away great name, young Pallas called, disembark, whoever you may be, and speak directly to my father. Come, you'll be the guest of our hearth gods tonight. He took Aeneas' hand in a strong grip, and up the grove they went, leaving the river. Then, for the king, Aeneas had friendly words. Most noble son of Greece, fortune would have me make my appeal to you with suppliant bows. I have not feared you as Arcadian, or captain of Danes, or bloodkin of the Aeneid. No, my own manhood and heaven's holy words, or our ancestry in common, and your fame through all the world, have brought me here by destiny, and gladly to join my strength with yours. The Greeks maintain electric bore, the founding father of Troy, old Dardanus, who sailed to the Crucians. Electra was the child of the prodigious Atlas, who upholds the heavenly spear on a snowy shoulder. Father of your line was Mercury, whom snow-white Maia bore on the cold summit of Selene, Maia. Father, if we can trust these tales, by that same Atlas, pillar of starry sky. So both our lines are branches of one blood. Putting my trust in this, I send no legates, made no roundabout approach to you, but have exposed myself and my own life in coming as a suppliant. The Dunians, the race that harries you, now harries us in savage war. If they defeat and rout us, nothing, so they believe, stands in the way of their subduing all Hesperia, ruling the seas that bathe her, north and south. Trust us as we trust you. We have the stamina for warfare, and we have the spirit for it. In difficulties, our men have proved themselves. Here Aeneas paused. For all this time, Evander's gaze had slowly swept the speaker, his eyes, his countenance, his whole figure. Now he replied, Most gallant Teucrian, how happily I welcome you and know you. And I'm going to leave it off there. Thank you for watching the series. Please keep viewing if you like. You can comment below, give it a thumbs up, a thumbs down, subscribe, or just keep watching. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.